All right, let's talk about cryopreservation and how that works in longevity. So first of all, the fundamental logic here is death sucks, right? And a lot of DeSci, there's a lot of overlap from people who are into anything blockchain and DeSci and who think, well, that sucks. So we're building a new DAO to fund very, very, very out there, high impact research for cryopreservation. So I think the fundamental point again is that even though, of course, currently people still die, that might not always be the case. And we ran a large study where we asked people if they could live longer, would they? And 26% said, even I would be willing to live indefinite. Right? So tremendous amount of time, arguably. And still, 180,000 people every day die. And even though, of course, with VitaDAO and other initiatives, there's more and more being done in regards to longevity, that may take a tremendous amount of time until this actually comes to fruition and actually does work. So cryopreservation arguably is an alternative, right? And I've decided a couple of years ago, after running a few tech companies over the last years and being a doctor before that, that's what I'm going to spend the rest of my life. A few more slides, I think, ahead. One more. Cryopreservation is this topic that I'm going to spend the next, 20, 30 years of my life on to make this actually work. Right? The logic here is that if your brain is still around, then what makes you is still around. And at some point in the future, it might then be possible to actually extend life by a good amount of time. Let's say 50 years, let's say 100 years, maybe longer, but you just need to get there. So if someone dies right now, we cryopreserve them using special solutions, right, that stop ice formation and very, very, very low temperatures, around -196 Celsius, at which temperature there's no degradation. So you can keep a body at that temperature practically for indefinite time frames and kind of wait it out, in quotation marks, until in the future technology has advanced enough, medical technology has advanced enough to A, revive that person, which currently is not possible yet, and B, cure whatever killed that person in the first place, let it be cancer or whatever it is, and then hopefully at a time when at that point it's already possible to live significantly longer. So why another DAO, right? It's a horribly underfunded field, right? It has a very unique funding, like a very unique type of person is interested in it. It's not really there to make money. It's very tough to make money with anything cryopreservation related. So crypto people are usually the right type of people. Actually, in fact, I'm running a research institute in Switzerland as well. Around 50% of our money comes directly in Ethereum or Bitcoin or any other coin. So high overlap of interests. Yeah, a couple of research things that currently does work. So you can cryopreserve a couple of things. You can cryopreserve C. elegans, like a small worm that actually after being brought back from cryopreservations, reproduces, lives on, keeps its memories. You can cryopreserve certain organs that work after cryopreservation. You cannot yet do mammals or humans, but you can show that the neural structure, like the connectome, basically the part that makes me and that makes you, that part is being kept around. Next slide. I mean, you don't need to read the slides anyway, too small print font, but the point here being there's still a lot to be done, right? Like a tremendous amount of stuff that needs to be figured out for that actually to make it work. Next slide. So this DAO will fund research projects that otherwise have a very hard time getting funded. Very, very moonshot stuff where it's not clear how to make any money with it anytime soon. But if they turn out to work at some point in the future, of course, it would be very, very, very high impact. So the first one here, just to give you a bit of a glimpse of what we're doing, the first one is a lab in Seville in Spain where they built like room-sized ultrasound transducers, like thousands of small ultrasound transducers that can warm up a brain from cryogenic temperatures, so -196, super fast, without damage during this warm-up process, right? And if that works, then potentially it will be possible to revive mammals soon-ish, like rats and mice, and then maybe at some point down the line also humans. And the second one is a research project where we're designing a specialized, or the lab is designing a specialized medication cocktail to make the quality of people who are being cryopreserved, well, better. Next slide. Yeah, it's a team from people who have been in the field, in the DeSci field, from a long time. Lawrence and Vincent from CryoDAO, from VitaDAO. A couple of people with cryo backgrounds, Kai, me, and so on, and then a couple of people who are more on the networking, kind of building community sites, which of course is quite important for a DAO. Next slide. Death really sucks. The goal is to do something about it, right? On the very, very, very high impact side with CryoDAO, then the more applied stuff where you find philanthropic donors and so on, that's the research institute that I'm running in Switzerland, that's what they are doing. And then Tomorrow Bio, which is my day-to-day, kind of organization company, is actually, if someone wants to be cryopreserved, you can actually sign up to be cryopreserved, even though knowing that, of course, currently it's not yet possible to say when and if this will work. But then again, if the alternative is cremation or burial, there's very little that you have to lose, at least I would argue so. Yeah, that's CryoDAO. Next slide. Join us. If this is something that you're interested in, join us and get involved on Discord in any other capacity, and try to make us help to make that happen in the, probably long run, but again, very high impact. Thank you so much.
What's your favorite thing about life?
A lot of things. So I think all of that is just mostly for people who like life, right? So for me, it's mostly two things. I pretty much, not every day, but in general, I like every day. And then the second point is I would be really excited to see how the future looks in 100 years, right? How society looks, what's possible at that point, right? And not only 100 years, maybe 1,000 years. So in general, I would always like to have the choice, do I want to do another year or not? Right? And even if I'm 500 at some point, or whatever the number might be, I still want to have that choice. And I might reconsider at some point and, choose to not do another year, possible. But so far, I don't see that point coming anytime soon. Yeah.
I'm curious if you would want to live forever. If forever meant you have to wake up a different person every couple of years.
So forever is a fucking long time, right? Even if you wake up every 100 years, then it's still forever, right? Yeah. So if you push me, right? So if I can choose non-existence right now or forever, I'm picking forever, knowing that I might regret that at some point. Forever is just very, very, very long, right? It's unimaginably long. I mean, I don't think any human has a concept of how living real forever, how long that actually is. Yeah. Say again? Do I keep my memories? Oh, no, if my memory is gone, that's worth nothing. Yeah. Because if memories are not gone, it's not you. It's something, right? It's maybe same DNA, whatever, but memories are, and personality and identity, that's the important part, right? So the logic here is that if you keep the connections in the brain around, that is how your memories are encoded. If that part goes, then for me it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Actually, recently I've been talking with some friends about space travel, and we were calculating how long it takes to travel to the next solar system with exoplanets. So I'm a physicist, so we were thinking about how to do it, and obviously I think it will take like a couple of generations, like a few 100,000 generations. So cryo is, I think, the way to go there.
Yeah.
Maybe you should speak to whatever they are called, like SpaceX and all these.
They don't need it yet, right? So for Mars and going a bit further, you don't need it yet, right?
Yeah,
so
but like in a long run, yeah. And the other question I have is like, how do you? What is the funding scheme that you envisage for CryoDAO? Like VitaDAO, or
very similar.
So you will issue like IP NFTs and where would you get the funding from?
Yeah, so there are two main ways. It's basically modeled after VitaDAO. I think VitaDAO did a good job how they set it up, right? So it's IP NFTs. We might also be able. They have kind of a new model that we will also use, or kind of their lawyers came up with something new where kind of a centralized part of the DAO that needs to act how the DAO decides can also take equity stakes in companies, right? So it will probably a combination of both, and then from a funding, how money gets in, very similar to VitaDAO. Basically one-to-one. Yeah.
Any other questions before I ask? Okay, so I'm curious about the equitability of the technology. Like, this is going to be expensive, and not everyone's going to want it. So it seems like it's going to create some divides at some point if we succeed in this. Beyond like this, the space travel sounds super practical, very much needed eventually for that. But when it comes to like combining it with longevity and living forever, I have questions. I have doubts.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So the point that it's so expensive right now, it's one of my biggest pet peeves with it. So currently, if you do whole body cryopreservation, it's in the vicinity of 200K.
Wow.
Right, so relatively expensive.
And hold on, just to be clear, that works? Like right now we can cryo people?
You can put them into cryo.
Okay.
Can't take them out yet. So it's a gamble, right? It's a chance, right? The only thing why arguably, it's kind of similar in medicine how you have compassionate use cases, right? When the alternative is cremation or burial, the patient and the doctor can basically decide to use very creative things and try out new stuff. Cryopreservation is basically pushing that concept one step further, right? At scale, cryopreservation can be extreme. Nothing of cryopreservation is expensive. It's just so expensive just because just a handful of people currently do it per year. At scale, you can bring the cost down to somewhere in the probably 12,000, maybe even 10 or 8,000 US dollars for one cryopreservation case. At which point, of course, it's significantly more affordable. It's all, of course, self-paid, right? So it's not, we're not using money from any statutory healthcare system or anything like that. And as long as societally we're fine with people buying expensive cars, I don't see any reason why we should societally not be okay with people choosing cryopreservation. Yeah.
I understand that argument. I think that's a deeper conversation that I'm going to put on the unconference board, because there is an unconference at 4. So if we want to continue these talks, throw a topic on the whiteboard over on the other side, and let's continue the talks.
Thank you.